Okay, hey guys, this is Dia, and the channel name is Oasis. Um, One, excuse the hair. I had it in a ponytail, and if you know anything about locks, whenever you have it in a certain style and you just take it down, they go crazy. So I'm trying to get them to just lay down, but they don't seem to want to do that. But anyway, okay, like I said, this is a spiritual movie review for the movie After Death. And I'm gonna try to make this really, really quick. One reason, huh? I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me. After Earth. See, okay. First of all, let me explain. I saw this movie by accident. I thought After Earth was Oblivion, and I had the two movies totally confused. Don't ask me how. It was just a special day moment, and yeah. So we ended up seeing After Earth, but even seeing it, we loved it. Um, the whole movie is based around basically Will Smith and Jaden Smith. Jaden, who plays Kata, and Will Smith, who plays, ironically, well, not so ironically, plays Kata's dad, and his name is Cypher. And what happens is Cypher spends his basically whole life away from his family, fighting these monsters who basically feed off people's fear. Well, not feed off people's fear. The monsters can't see and they can't feel, but they can sit. No, sorry, not feel. They can't hear, but they can pick up people's energy through fear. So that's how, and these big horrible monsters. When you see them, of course you're scared. So they sense your fear right then and there, and that's how they're able to. That's how they're able to find you and kill you. So the son's in the cadet program to become a ranger like his dad, and on the day that he's supposed to, I'm sorry, this is a total spoiler alert. So I have to do certain spoiler a little bit to give you the symbolism because a lot of it. Like I said, the son basically was there. He's supposed to meet his dad. Basically fails the test to be a ranger, so he's still stuck as a cadet, and he's sad about it. Blah 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 blah. Dad comes home. Talks to mom, and dad goes home, talks to mom, and either way, the dad goes on one more mission. He's ready to retire, and he decides to take his son with him on this mission. Now, they get on the ship. Something ends up happening. There's a meteor shower. Some rock hits the ship and messes up the ship, which causes the ship to have to land immediately on the next planet. In landing, the ship basically breaks apart. Everybody dies except for Kata and Cypher. And Cypher ends up breaking his leg, so he can't move. And the ship, as it crashes, the front part crashes in one area of the planet, and the back end shot off and hit another area of the planet. So in order for them to get the flare, it's a flare. It's a sci-fi flare. But the flare that they need to send off a signal so that other people know that they're there so they can be rescued is at the end of the ship. And Cypher can't go get it because his leg broke, so Kata has to go get it. So Cypher has to guide Kata to the other end of the ship using technology and his know-how skills of how he survived. So, with that being the basis of the movie said, now we get to the spiritual side. Cypher represents Kata's consciousness, and early on in the movie it shows that it doesn't show that the sister, you see that the sister's not there. They have flashbacks to the sister being there, so obviously it shows that something happened to the sister's not there. And the mother and the sister actually represents the spirit, whereas Will Smith's character represents logic and Kata is the consciousness, or they're both sides of Kata basically. And so you can tell right then and there he's totally disconnected from spirit. And he's totally disconnected from spirit. And when you're disconnected from spirit, your logic tends to defy you, or you tend to defy your logic a lot of times. And that comes up in the movie. Kata gets to a point where, because he's not connected to spirit and he's not doing doing what his logic said. He's going basically total off emotion. He's not present in the moment. And that's one of the things I do love in the movie, that he keeps that Cypher keeps telling Kata to be present in the moment, to ground yourself into that earth, feel, think, see with your spiritual eye, and let your logic decipher that. I love that part because you have to be grounded to the earth, connected to the earth, in order to totally see in that present moment what's really there, what's really not there. Like I said, he gets to a point where he creates a whole. I'm trying not to give the whole movie away, but give it away at the same time. But anyway, he gets to the point where he creates a situation for himself that creates a spiral effect or a boulder going downhill effect, because he got overly emotional and he created a whole situation that didn't have to be. And because of that, it puts him in a state where he has to stay still, where he can't do nothing, where he just has to just be still, basically. During this whole time, he's still fighting with. It shows up, his real problem with this monster and what happened with his sister, and he's fighting it this whole time. And he gets to a point where he gets to a cliff, and for me, this is like it just shows subliminally so much how when we're not connected to spirit, when we're not grounded, when we let our emotions get out of control without grounding into the present moment and the current reality, is seeing how it really fits in. We tend to create situations for ourselves all the time and make things much worse than what it has to be. To the point where we can't do nothing. To the point where the situation, instead of us taking control of the situation to our best know-how, the situation ends up taking control of us and not going to slap on our behind. This is not to people that can say that's never done it. It doesn't have to be a part of life, but some of us learn that way. Some of us learn best that way, and other times we just not paying attention. It happens, and I love that was represented in the movie. Then Kasai gets to this cliff, and to me, this cliff represents the newness where if he goes past this cliff. Because he has to go past this cliff to get to his destination, to get to the other end of the craft to set off the flare. But it's this big cliff, and Cypher goes through all his little mechanical technology and everything, and do all the little analyzation, all the things that logic does. And basically, logic says, abort mission, we just gonna die together. Come back to this half, the front half of the ship, and we're just gonna die together and whatever. Because this is not possible, you can't do it. And we all get to the point where we want to do something new, or we see the goal, but we get to a cliff where we feel as though it's not possible. And our logic, because our logic doesn't have no new information of where we're going, we cannot use our logic to get there. We have to learn how to develop new logic, and it gets to a point where you have to rely solely on spirit. This is where to bring in the Bible where it says if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to push a mountain, but it means it will happen. And if you get to a point where your logic is rooted in your past experiences, so you will get to a point where your logic will defy you when you're going towards a new direction, a new goal. And he gets to this cliff, and he gets to this cliff, and he's starts arguing with his logic, like, you said I can't do this, you think it's my fault that my sister died, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. He goes through this whole thing, which basically is really representing him having a talk with his logic and having to talk with, starting having to talk with the deep problems inside of it, and he just decides to jump off the cliff. He just says, screw it, I'm going for it, and just jumps off the cliff. And as he jumps off the cliff, because it's a high-tech spacesuit, he starts air gliding. But as he's air gliding, this vulture comes behind him, a beautiful black vulture, huge, about 4 times the size of him, comes flying after him, catches him, takes him to her nest. Now, if anybody knows anything about birds and vultures is all about renewal. And for me, the vulture and the phoenix were just the same. So I was calling it a black phoenix, which I thought was beautiful. But kind of found out it was a vulture. And vulture's all about renewal. Pay attention to the symbolism in this. So she takes her to her nest. And in the nest is 3 eggs. The amount of eggs really didn't stand out to me. But what stood out to me is the fact that those new eggs represented new thought patterns. New ways of doing things, new ideas, that's nesting. And the boy instinctively, when he woke up, it was these tigers there trying to, well, at least I thought they were tigers. They were trying to, some wildcats was trying to get the eggs, and he instinctively defended those eggs. I mean, he, without even a second thought, he took out those tigers and defended those eggs. So, with that, the vulture kind of took a liking to him. And that was highly symbolism to me, because a lot of times when we start having new ideas, new thought patterns, and our brains start to click, and we're developing new logic and new ways of doing things, that some old voices in your head will say, no, you're doing this wrong. How do you know what you're doing? People are not going to like this. You're not going to like this. You look crazy, da-da-da. Those old thought patterns, those tigers to me represented, and then I like cats, but in this movie, those tigers to me represented, or wildcats earlier was, represented those old thought patterns coming back to steal your new thought patterns, to steal what you're trying to do. And he totally took it out. And when we get situations like that, before we even allow the tigers to feel comfortable pacing around our nest where we're trying to protect our new thoughts, our new habits, our new ways, just take them out. Don't even allow them to pace. Don't allow them to walk. Don't give them a chance to get a second breath. You see it? You see that old thought pattern coming out? Kill it with your new idea. Tell it it has no place. It has to go. I mean, if you can't send up, sometimes you can send away old thoughts with love, and you work for a time, it's time to go. But then there's other times when you got to fight and be like, no, I'm not this no more. I don't even say I'm not this no more. Just don't even recognize it. This is who I am. Who are you? You are a stranger. You don't belong here. You got to go. You have to do that a lot of times with the inner dialogue that goes on inside of you, and I love that. And then once he gets to this nest, he tries to contact his father, and all the technology is not working. There's no transmission. There's no communication between him and his father. And I love that because when he took the plunge to go on through his new life, he totally had to disconnect from his logic, from which was represented by his dad's old logic. So now he has nothing to go on but spirit, but instinct. He has to be grounded in the moment. He has to search spiritually to get to where he needs to go. And with that happening, and I love that part. And he starts going, and he starts hearing his mom's voice. He starts to hear a little bit of his dad's voice faded away, no direct contact. And he has to basically allow spirit to show him what to do and where to go. Hush. So, with that being said, he then goes to a point where it's becoming night, and on this planet, when it gets nighttime, everything freezes over. So it gets to the point where it's becoming night, and his lungs are starting to freeze over, and he passes out. Just when he passes out, that vulture comes back. And piece of symbolism, get to in a second. That vulture comes back, buries him in the earth, literally buries him in the earth, and then covers the earth covers earth with its body. I'm gonna say her because I saw the egg. Covers the earth with her body. So he wakes up not knowing what's going on. He literally climbs out to earth to see that this bird was covering him, and this bird died. And we all know, like I said, that's why I saw the symbolism of the black phoenix and the vulture being renewal. You have to die to something in order to be reborn. And that was literal symbolism of him dying to his old self, dying to his old logic, and literally being rebirthed from the earth, from Mother Nature, and having that direct connection. After that, he goes to a situation where he ends up falling into the water. Anybody knows anything about water? Water is baptism. I don't care what little spiritual system you're in. If you are a Catholic, you get baptized, as a baby or whatever, and they put water on your forehead and a cross. If you're Christian, that you either get your head dipped in water or that you step into a pool. If you're old Southern Baptist, they take you to a lake and they darn near drown you in that water. If you're in other spiritual systems, there's always a spiritual bath, a spiritual cleansing before you go anywhere on to your next step. And that's what that represents. He got spiritual bath, spiritual cleansing, and while he's laying on his raft, his sister comes to mind, his old thoughts come to mind, and he's clearing them out, whatever. And it got to a point, and the other part that I like is it got to the point where he was so deep in thought, he wasn't still in the present moment, and his thoughts had to do something to jog him and get him back to come to the present moment. So, eventually he gets to a point where he has to face his greatest fear. And I love this, and of course, the greatest fear is a monster in the movie, which is a great representation because you can't really tell what type of monster it is, what kind of monster it is. You just know it's a monster. And in life, we do get to that point where we have to face our greatest fear in order to go on to the next life, or go on to the next situation in life. If you're at the point where you're ready for a relationship, you have to go down to your greatest fears about relationships, see where they came from, and uproot them. Otherwise, your relationships will always be destroyed. If you're trying to start a business for yourself or move up in a company, you need to go in, first of all, and uproot the ideas of supervisor versus employee. You have to start changing your whole mindset. Figure out where these old, habits come from and who put them there and why they're there, and uproot them. They have to go. If you're starting your own business, all those fears about, starting a business, whether you're going to make it or not, the idea of money Because a lot of people really do have a messed up idea of money, and it does come from, when you really start paying attention, you do get a lot of subliminal messed up ideas about money in and outside the church, in and outside every spiritual system, and all around. This is the real reason why the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor, because there's so many subliminal messages around the so-called poor. I'm talking monetary-wise, but around the so-called monetary-wise poor, because of the subliminal messages that are kept like a bubble sphere around you that you keep taking in and just sucking in and sucking in, that keeps you from having the right connection with money to grow. Which as the people who are rich don't have that. They don't even run in that mindset. And this trap is I have noticed that this trap right here is in almost every spiritual system, and I do mean almost every spiritual system. But anyway, getting off of that. Anyway, if you want to have a child, you have to go back into that old mindset of what's keep you from having a child. How do you really feel about children? Either way, you have to go down and go deep into what the problem is. And when you go deep into a problem, you will always see the root of the problem is some type of fear. And you have to conquer that fear in order to move on to get to your destination. So with that being said, I pretty much said it as in a movie. He ends up sitting down and he meditates. He grounds himself into the earth. And he finally meditates and he gets to the root of his fear. And he basically says no more. Kills the monster, gets to the flare, sends off the flare. That's the end of the movie. But the basis of the movie is just beautiful. It's all about grounding yourself in the present moment, conquering your fears, rebirth, spiritual cleansing. I loved it. Acting, and me and Grizz debate on the actor a little bit because he feels so to be in front of a green screen a lot, it was good acting. I think I have no problem with Jayden's character, Katai's acting. I had an issue with Will Smith's acting only because I'm so used to him overacting that this was such a change for me, where he's really controlled, he's really contained. I ain't like it too much. But that's still really based on what I'm used to seeing him on. Not saying that he didn't do a good job in this movie, just compared to what I'm used to seeing him in. I had to get used to that. Even in all his movies to me, he still has this persona to me where even in the series roles where he played Muhammad Ali, he still has this persona to me, and he just has this overacting thing to him. It's just like natural to him. And he's one of the few people that overacts and it does look stupid where you're just like, I can't watch this no more. But this movie, he's really controlled, and I just wasn't used to it. But he did play a good role, and I won't take that from him. But anyway, that was my spiritual review of this movie. I loved it, and I'll leave you with the quote that they put in. I'll leave you with the quote that he said in the movie, and it actually is the full quote if you watch the movie. And I'd rather you watch the movie to get the full quote. Or you can go to my e-zine, me and my, I don't even know what to call it. I want to say co-worker, but me and a friend have our own e-zine called SimplisticTruth.com. If you go to SimplisticTruth.com, the review should be up by Friday, and the full quote is in the review. If you want to go there to review. Other than that, I suggest you do go to the movie to hear the full quote. And I'm going to leave you with this. Fear is a choice. Danger is real. But fear is a choice. Think on that, meditate on that, start going into your fears and realizing there is nothing to fear. You're creating an illusion of nothing can harm you that you don't let harm you. And what I mean by that, I mean spiritually. Spiritually. You know, we are spirit first, then flesh for experience. Spirit first, but then flesh to carry out the experiences that we want. Hope you got that. Everybody stay blessed.